Alrighty then. Good morning, folks, and welcome to Preparing for Prosperity. I am AJ Harrison. It is Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. So yesterday was supposed to be a kind of catch up with what's going on around the homestead and kind of that deal. And my son and I ended up getting sick over the weekend, and didn't get a thing done. I mean, there's a bad stomach bug going around, and so we ended up basically not too far away from bedridden for the weekend. Couldn't really do anything, didn't want to go anywhere, for fear of getting sick. And so we just kind of hung out. And it was probably the last nice weekend that we're going to see here in the Bitter Valley, Montana, this fall. So we might get one or two more that are decent. But I mean, this was a spectacularly beautiful weekend. And it was one of those deals where, I wanted to keep the shades drawn so I couldn't see how pretty it was outside because it was just depressing me. And I just really didn't feel it was that blah mood where you didn't really even want to do anything. So, I mean, full transparency, I binged watched a lot of Game of Thrones. I've never seen it before, and so this weekend was like a couple seasons of Game of Thrones, as I was hanging out and waiting to just get better. By Sunday afternoon, we were able to make a trip to go to the Tractor Supply, and that was like far beyond what I wanted to and should have done, and that was a pretty quick trip. So, so yesterday, Monday, I was so in the zone with needing to do a few different things that I kind of really forgot that it was Monday, and so I had, in the morning. I got going on a very large batch of chicken stock for the freeze dryer, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But I got going on that because I was feeling significantly better. And then in the afternoon, this was a big batch of chicken stock. It took a long time, and so I worked on that pretty well straight. And then in the afternoon, after having about an hour to kind of putz around and do a couple things, I had to go to the big town of Missoula and meet a gentleman for a onboard fuel tank, for a pickup truck, and it goes behind the cab, in the very front of the bed box, and it's 26 gallons, kind of small, super out of the way, and I'm intending on using it for red dye diesel for the tractors and for the equipment and stuff, for the farming. I don't know if that will happen or not, but it was one of those deals where that's a $500 tank to buy new. This one's in all right condition. I mean, it's a little bit older, and it definitely needs a repaint, but for the $80 I spent on it, I really could not go wrong. And it's been something I've wanted to invest in for a long time. I just couldn't make myself spend the money. So when I saw that, had to jump on it. And then we had a planning meeting for this weekend's Boy Scout camp out, which means starting Friday mid-afternoon, early afternoon, I'm not going to be doing any homestead stuff because we're going to be doing Boy Scout stuff until Sunday, when we then go to church and then have a little bit of time in the afternoon to kind of repack and get life back together before school on Monday. So, yeah, kind of makes for a little bit of a short week left here, but I'm excited. We've got a lot going on. It is firmly fall. I don't know if we frosted at our house yet, but at the hayfield, it has already frosted, and at a couple other of my friends' houses, it's already frosted, which means we're into fall. I walked out the door yesterday morning, turned around, walked back in, and still wearing shorts. I put a hoodie on, and so I'm now in morning fall attire, which means all of my hoodies are going to end up in my sweatshirt, in the vehicles, or in the sweatshirt. Yeah, that's great. All my hoodies are either going to end up in the vehicles or in the greenhouse or in a shed or who knows where. And so, yeah, it's that fantastic season where you walk out the door and it's a little brisk, and in about 40 minutes you take it off, and then I'm not a very good person when it comes to getting that either back into the truck or from the truck back into the house so that I have it for the next day. But I need to be better about that. So hashtag goals. Um, and the ums are really coming out today, which is fantastic. So I want to move into the big project, and that is, when last year I was doing the propane job for wintertime, for bringing in the extra income, for making some progress on stuff. And while I was down in Texas at Bastrop at the, what was that conference I went to? I can't even remember the name now. Exit and Build. John Bush's Exit and Build in Bastrop, Texas. I got to talking with Nicole Sauce and a couple of the other presenters and formulated this plan for, we have a freeze dryer. And part of the thing with the new revamp of what I want to do with the show and doing Wednesdays all about freeze drying and a lot more freeze drying content came from those conversations. But also I realized that there's a very large gap in the market when it comes to bone broth, and specifically freeze-dried bone broth, something that you can take with you when you travel. I listen to a lot of the homesteading, homegrown, heritage type podcasts, and these are all people that are eating super clean when they're home, raising their own vegetables, their own garden, a lot of their own protein. What they're not raising, they're sourcing as better than organic, grass raised, grass finished, pastured chicken, all those things. And then when they leave, they're taking canned goods with them, or they're taking, their own freeze-dried stuff with them, stuff like that. But there's not a good option for broth unless you're going to freeze dry it yourself and bring it with you. And I've done that when I was traveling back and forth to Spokane for the propane job. I was taking freeze-dried bone broth with me. And then in the morning when I got up, I had a kettle, and I would boil the kettle, and then I would make a cup of bone broth, and I drank a cup of bone broth because I was on the carnivore diet. So I would drink a cup of bone broth when I woke up, and then I waited about an hour to an hour and a half before I had a cup of coffee, and my days were so much better. And a lot of folks, it seems, are doing that. But broth is inconvenient, and broth takes up a lot of time and a lot of space in the freeze dryer. I mean, we have a large, and I think I can do. What can I do? I can do about 1.5 gallons at a time. I think I need to measure that because I'm typically I've got a big container and a pitcher, and I'm setting the tray in the freezer, and then I'm pouring the broth in there, and I'm not really measuring it. I'm just trying to get it to the lip so that it can pre-freeze, and then I move it into the freeze dryer and it goes. And so I need to get a better measurement of that. But what kind of stemmed from that, this idea, this product that we can make and value add on some stuff, is freeze-dried individual packets of bone broth. And so I'm working with a supplier. I now have my we have the packaging all taken care of and figured out, and the bulk order is on the way. I'm using a company called discountmylarbags.com, and the owner of the company was on the Living Free in Tennessee podcast, and I listened to it, and man, that guy's passionate. And so when I got back from Bastrop, I gave him a call, and I just said, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I've got this plan for doing a lot of freeze-dried products, but primarily I want to work with bone broth. And I was on the phone with that gentleman for 48 minutes. No exaggeration, because I looked down and it was like 48 minutes and change, and I'm like, holy cow, this guy just spent so much time chatting with me to try to figure out exactly what I wanted. And then he sent me a bunch of test and trial stuff, 2s and 3s of things, so that we could try the packaging and figure it out. And he wouldn't let me pay him for any of it. And that's cool. I mean, big companies a lot of times will do that, but this is a small company. And they just really wanted to make sure that we were going to be happy with what we got, and that we were going to be getting exactly what we were looking for. Fantastic group of people. If you have a freeze dryer, or even are doing long-term dry good storage, you should check them out. Discountmylarbags.com. I don't have an affiliate link for them. I'm just now a customer of theirs, and they're fantastic. So I have no problem giving them a shout out. So the packaging is on the way. We've got the large Harvest Right freeze dryer set up, and then I have made contacts with a pastured poultry operation about 15-20 miles away from here that processes 300 birds twice a week, and they are, they're fed really high quality feed. It's not soy free, it's not corn free, it's not any of the things that we do with our birds, just because they're a large scale operation, but they're on pasture. It's beautiful pasture. They're rotating the chickens behind the cows. They've got these tremendous hoop houses. I mean, it's an absolutely stunning and beautiful operation. And this place is part of the reason why I pulled back on wanting to do a commercial chicken operation, because they already do it and they do a very good job. And while there might be a market for it, there's other things that we can do and focus on value adding and stuff like that. So I got a hold of these guys, and I'm purchasing these chicken. They're called a chicken. It's called a chicken back. It's basically the carcass. The majority of what they sell is done not as whole birds, but it's broken down into chicken breasts and leg quarters and thighs and boneless stuff and all that kind of stuff. So what we're buying is the carcass with with very, very little meat on it, and the neck still attached, and getting a fairly decent deal because we're buying a lot in bulk. And so starting with that, and then we're adding our onions, our celery, and our carrots to that, and then some pepper, and then I think that's it. A little bit of garlic. So 5 ingredients in this chicken stock, and it is fantastic. And it's pretty similar to the stock that we make at home. I just withheld some of the spices. I didn't actually put a bay leaf in this batch, and so I need to do that next time. The batch that I'm just finishing up. So yesterday I got, what did I do? I did 15 gallons of chicken broth in the commercial kitchen, our mobile commercial kitchen for the catering company. And what a fantastic resource to have that not a lot of people have. I mean, the sheer amount of cooktop space, along with the fact that I have a stock pot boiler, a 2-burner stock pot stove, and then I have a 4-burner. And these are commercial appliances in my commercial vehicle that's got the hood vent. It's got my commercial double ovens in there, 3-door fridge, everything's stainless. The walls are FRP, which is a fiber reinforced plastic. This is basically the same thing as being in a full-on commercial kitchen, except for it's in my driveway. And so this is in no way affiliated with my catering company, but I'm not catering this week, and it's not for the catering company. I'm just utilizing it. So, it's a completely separate entity. But holy cow, is it nice to be able to take, these full-size chicken carcasses, basically without the legs on them, and the wings, because they've been cut off, and little avocado oil, some salt and pepper on there, and then throw them in the oven, and I can roast 26 carcasses at a time in one oven without even maxing it out. And then I can pull that out, stick that in the water that's starting to go, and then then I can take my mirepoix and my carrots, onion, and celery that I've already prepped, and then I can toss that in the fat of the chicken that's now rendered, and then stick it back in the oven and roast it at 400 degrees. And I can do all of that, minus prep time. I can do all of that in 45 minutes. And it comes out really nice, golden brown roasted. It's got all the flavor. It's got all the smells. It's all the fantastic. And then I can go right into those big pots that are simmering with the chicken in them at that point, and then top them off with water. And then they can just kind of go, and it's not affecting anything in our kitchen. It's inside a controlled environment with a exhaust hood for humidity, and everything's fantastic. So that's what we're working on. That's the big project that I've kind of been hinting at all summer. And I'm just finally ready to kind of start talking about it because I'm finally able to start moving on it. So we're starting with chicken broth. Like I said, I guess the ingredients were a little bit off when I first said, because there's olive oil and the salt, or avocado oil and salt. So it's avocado oil, salt, pepper, onions, carrots, celery, and pasture raised chicken carcasses. So super fantastic. That's my wife calling, so I'm going to take a quick break. All right, and I'm back. Not a lot of things will cause me to pause the recording of the show, but when my wife calls because she's gone, I want to make sure that she's not stuck on the side of the road or anything. So back to it. So very, very wholesome. No BS in this stock, basically. So we're freeze drying it. It's going to be available in single serve pouches for adding to, a cup. So 8 to 12 ounces of water, depending on how, how thick and or diluted you would like it to be. Because some people don't like a super thick broth. Other people, man, I like it like super duper thick. So that's the one way it's available. And then the other way it's going to be available is we have a pouch that will make a quart of broth, or a quart of stock, bone broth stock. I don't know. It's basically the same dang thing. So it'll make a quart. You'll basically take a mason jar and you will put the whole packet in there, and then you'll add 3 3/4 cups of water to it, and then give it a shake and let it sit. And you can either, if you need it right now for something you're working on, you can give it a shake you can fill it with hot water, give it a shake, let it sit for about 10 minutes, pour it in and go right away. The other thing is, if you're making a soup or something with it, you can just add the packet into the soup, and that will work as well. Or if you use broth for a lot of cooking and you want just like a quart in your fridge, you can just add it to cold water, let it reconstitute in the fridge overnight, give it a shake a couple times, and then it's good for the same length of time that broth typically is good for. We're going from making of the broth to freezing of the broth to freeze drying of the broth within, depending on what the freeze time is, we're going into the cooler with the hot broth immediately. As soon as it's cool enough to where it's not going to shock my freezer, we go into, which is about 4 to 5 hours, because I'm using these commercial kitchen cold stir sticks, basically, that you stick in the freezer, and then you can put them in the broth, and it cools it from the inside out. So about 4 or 5 hours from there into the freezer, and then from the freezer into the freeze dryer. So you're looking, your standard shelf life for something that you open, or like broth that you would make, so 4 to 5 days ish in the fridge. So I'm really excited about it. We're starting off with chicken broth right now because chicken growing season in Montana, the last harvest that the chicken guys are going to be doing is November. I want to say they said November 3rd, the week prior to November 5th. Now, he might have said the week of November 5th. And some crazy exciting news is Jack Spirko, the Survival Podcast, his annual workshop at his place in Texas. Tickets went on sale last weekend. They sold out in 4 minutes, and I got one. I got a ticket to there, so I'm going down. I've heard so many amazing stories about it. I'm super excited. This is a bucket list item for me. Going to Bastrop this spring was going to be my one trip this year. But having the ability to go and do that, and then the fact that I actually got a ticket, I'm so looking forward to it. The connections, the people to meet, to hang out with Jack. I got to hang out with Jack a good bit at Bastrop. because I got the VIP ticket and was able to hang out with him in the green room, and then we hang out and shot the shit when we were at the VIP dinner, and super cool guy, like just exactly like you would think, like he is on his podcast. It's it was super refreshing, both him and Nicole. So yeah, that's the big new thing that we're doing. So I'm going to be pushing hard to do 2 big batches a week in of broth coming up into November, so I can utilize that resource. And then I've made another deal with another butcher with a butcher shop to get locally raised, grass raised beef bones to make beef broth. And then we're going to be doing a chicken broth or a vegetable broth as well. Excuse me. So we will have 3 different options, but you got to make hay when the sun's shining, right? Which the sun did not shine very much on our second cutting of hay, which is part of the reason why this podcast has not been going down, because everything's been a fiasco. But when chicken's available and ready to go, I'm going to try to make a bunch of that, and then we'll start working on the beef broth, and then we'll be working on chicken broth in between while we're waiting for beef bones and such. And so I'm hoping to have a fairly decent stock available of all of the things. Like, I won't have a lot by Christmas, but by February, coming into March, I should have quite a bit available on the website that is in process of being built. I've kind of transitioned how I want to do it, and so I've scrapped what I was working on, and we're moving a completely different route with it. That way we can also have an online e-commerce store available as well for the purchasing of the broth and the stock and such. So what I'm thinking, and I don't have this solidified right now, is the individual packets are going to come in a pack of 12. Why 12? I don't know. I like 12. I like a dozen better than I like 10. Maybe that's dumb. But I like 12. So those are going to be available in a pack of 12. And I don't have final pricing on them yet because I'm still calculating actual costs for freeze drying. I've had my recipes down, and I've been working on my recipes all summer, which is why we haven't really moved into production with it, is because I wanted to get everything dialed, for taste, for color, for everything. And I'm happy with where we're at. That's why we're moving into production now. So, I don't have finalized pricing yet. But the individual packets will be available in a pack of 12. And then I'm thinking the quarts will be available either in an each, or I'm looking at some packaging for a package of 6. And 6 is an odd number, but 6 is half of 12. And so I don't know, that's the way my brain works. That may change, but the sizes of the packages that we're going to be making are for sure going to be an individual cup package, and then and then the quart size. And then the individual package is a really convenient size because it's a lay flat. It's about 2 inches wide, and it's about 6 inches long. It will fit in a purse. It will fit in a fanny pack. It will fit in a carry-on, a toiletry bag. Like, it'll fit in so many different places. Being long and slender, you can even stick it in a shirt pocket. If you're out and about, traveling or whatever, and you want to be able to have broth later or when you're out or whatever, you can stick it in a shirt pocket. So super duper flexible. But so that's what's going on there with the big project. I think it's probably pretty prevalent how excited I am about that. And then kind of catching up with what's going on around, and why I've been lacking so much. Saturday, the gentleman that we kind of co-hay with on the big land, or the big piece with the pivot, finally the last of the hay that was out on the field was sold and picked up, and we ended up putting between 4 and 5 ton in the barn, just to get it off the field. This has been the second cutting from hell. It has been the perpetual nightmare. Every time I cut, it rained. Every time I raked, it rained. Every time it was almost dry enough to do anything with, it rained. And so we ended up with about, what we got, about 15 ton, 13 to 15 ton. I don't have the books in front of me, but we got between 13 and 15 ton off of the second half of the second cutting, and we got 10 ton off of the first part of the second cutting. And we had 150 bales, which is right in the neighborhood of 6 ton worth of, we called them like super poor quality cow hay or garden hay that we sold for $2 a bale. And then there was 2 ton of just rotten, moldy trash that it was a month from the time I cut it to the time it was actually able to be baled. By the time I raked it and turned it and did all of the things, it was fantastically horrible. And that was wear a respirator and gloves and long sleeves and everything, and buck that off the field and then get it put over to the side. And that's going to go in the compost that we're making with the horse manure that I'm picking up and hauling from the one place every 8 weeks. So we've got a local place that's got 8 horses. They live in their stalls most of the time. I don't even really know what's going on. But I replied to a next door ad this spring and picked up a contract to where every 6 to 7 weeks, it's going to be 8 weeks on this one because I've been so busy. But I take the dump trailer and I take my tractor and I scoop up all the horse poop, and then I haul it over to, I haul it over to the field where the big field where the pivot is, and I dump it. And then we're going to be making my version of a big ass Johnson Sioux pile. So I've got a bunch of 4-inch hard PVC lines that we'll put in the stake in the ground, and then backfill on top. And there's a lot of wood chips and stuff already mixed in with the manure, and it's already starting to break down pretty good. And so we're going to dampen all that stuff down. We're going to mix in the moldy hay. I may even actually spread it out on the ground and use the rototiller on the small tractor to really kind of just make a mess out of it. And this is, I mean, we're talking, it's been, I'll bet there's about 50 yards of horse manure there already. And they feed only certified weed-free hay, all the pellets, all the everything. So it's not like they're, and they don't really go out on and graze in the pasture. So there's not a lot of weed seeds. There's not a lot of any of that in there. There's probably some grass seeds, but who cares? It's compost, and it's going to get hot enough to kill all that stuff, hopefully. So that hay will get used. It just sucks that it wasn't for sale. And we only sold 13 ton of the entire second cutting as premium hay. And we sold 12 ton of nice cow hay, basically, at almost 50% off because it got rained on the day it was cut, and then sun bleached by the time it was dry. So there's nothing wrong with it. You could literally feed it. Like, I'm not a fan of feeding junk to animals, but you could literally feed it to anything but the most picky horse, or any goat or any cow, and it would be absolutely just fine. I fed it to my friend's cows the other day because I had one bale in the back of my truck. They scarfed it up. It's fantastic hay. It just doesn't look super pretty. So I worked basically for almost free for a month, almost every afternoon, trying to figure out how to get this hay up, and did not make any money, but that's okay. It just took a lot of time. And that's farming. That's homesteading. That's everything we do. First cutting, made some decent money. Second cutting, lost it all. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes we do really well. So we got that going on. We harvested all of the pumpkins out of the pumpkin patch. I think we have between 40 and 50 pumpkins, a lot of which are pie pumpkins, which I'm excited about. I'm not a big pumpkin pie person, but I like growing things that I can, and I like growing, it's going to be really cool to just work with them. I've done it a couple times. I've bought pie pumpkins and done the whole roast it thing a few times, but I've never really grown them in mass to be able to do a lot with. So we've got a Thanksgiving dinner we might be doing in conjunction with the church this year. We did it a couple years ago, and basically it's meals for 2 or 4 for people that aren't going anywhere, don't have anywhere to go, that somebody, the church pays for them. The church contracts us to do it. A couple of people from the church actually help us put it together, including the pastor and the pastor's wife. But we prepackage everything, and then the day before, people can take it to people and drop it off, and then all they have to do is stick it in the oven. And there's smoked turkey that's been brined. There's potatoes. There's all the fixins, all the sides. It comes with rolls that we bake fresh the day that they're picked up. So they're day old, but they're still fantastic. And we started this during COVID because a lot of people were afraid to go out. We went out and did stuff during COVID. I mean, after the first couple of months, it was like, okay, it actually wasn't even a couple months, but it wasn't very long. And we were like, yeah, this is stupid. And we're not really worried about this. So we still did stuff with friends and still got together. But there was a lot of people, even at Thanksgiving, that were, afraid to go out. Old folks that are really prone to get sick anyway. So kind of shut in people. So we did that. They want to do that again this year. And I'm thinking, well, we've got a lot of fresh pumpkins. It's going to make our cost a little higher, but the quality will be higher as well. So we're probably going to do something in that neighborhood with some of the pumpkins. So all of the pumpkins are harvested. We're getting the last of the beans, the last of the zucchinis and that type of stuff. And then we're getting ready to pull all of that out and put up the high tunnel where that stuff was all growing. And in the high tunnel is going to go either the chickens for the winter or the winter garden stuff, which we're so far behind on, but I've got transplants up. And I kind of want to have the high tunnel up so that we can plant stuff in there earlier in the spring and keep the moisture off of it and all that kind of stuff. So it's a win-win either way. But we've got that going on. I'm trying to clean up the disaster of a driveway that we have that I keep just bringing more stuff home, and I need to stop that. But we're making progress towards goals. It's just very slowly, and some of those progress things are pushing other things back. So the last of the sheetrock I picked up on Friday before I started not feeling good, and it is in Grandma's house, and it is cut, and I need to do a couple last things with the plumbing and the electrical in the bathroom, and then it's ready to sheetrock, and then we are taping and texturing. The groundwork I still need to finish and backfill, and then we ordered a few raised garden beds off of Amazon yesterday that I'm going to link in the description, and they are 4x8 by 2 foot tall, and they come with all the bolts, and they're like a corrugated galvanized metal. And they were on sale yesterday for like $125, and I think they still are today. So I will link those in the show comments. But yeah, we've got a lot going on. Oh, and canning. I'm staring at 18 quarts of prepped peaches, or not peaches. I wish they were peaches. They're pears. 18 quarts. Somebody brought a bushel box of pears to church last Sunday and put it on the table. There's a table up front that as the garden season goes, when people have excess, they just kind of bring it to church and drop it there, and other people take it. And it's, it's a nice, like, free exchange type deal. And, when everybody's gone, and there's stuff left, it's going to sit there. And so somebody brought these pears, and they left them, and nobody took them. I think a couple of people took a few, but they weren't going to be good, by the time next Sunday rolled around. So Sarah brought them home, and she prepped them, and I'm getting ready to make some syrup and can them. And there's a lot. And so that's going to be pretty fantastic. We put up 42 quarts of applesauce. I'm going to pick up from a friend's house 4 bushel boxes of ripe tomatoes that are ready to turn into sauce. Like today or tomorrow they need to be done. But none of this stuff is what we grew that I'm talking about. We just did. We went to a older lady's house, and picked all these apples that were going to go to waste anyway to make the applesauce. The pears got dropped off at church. This friend of mine grew these tomatoes. Our tomatoes aren't quite ready yet, but they're coming. And it just kind of goes back to that mindset of beg, borrow, or barter. Just do what you got to do to get it done, and don't be prideful about things. Your pride is what gets you in trouble 99% of the time. And so if somebody's offering you tomatoes, don't be afraid, don't be ashamed, don't think, whatever, just be like, yeah, man, that's freaking awesome. Because that same thing of tomatoes that we're going to pick up, that I got to go pick up today, there's probably 80 to 100 pounds of tomatoes there. And, the cheapest junk at the grocery store is going to be $1.20 a pound. So that's over $100 worth of tomatoes that they grew extra. They already got all theirs put away, and they asked us if we wanted it. And heck yes, I want it. I will make the time to process that. That means I'm not getting a lot of the other projects done that we want to work on. But, there again, you make hay when the sun's shining. You can the produce when it's ready. And when somebody offers you something, you damn well take it, because in this world, in this economy, with as expensive as everything is, and it's only getting worse, you got to make the best of everything. So, appreciate you listening to me ramble this afternoon, or this morning. It's not even 10 o'clock in the morning yet. So, but I appreciate you listening to me ramble. And, yeah, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want me to talk about, the email address is preparingforprosperity@proton.me. And I'm AJ Harrison. Thanks so much for listening. And beg, borrow, or barter. Do what you got to do to get the things done. All right, we'll talk to you later.